Okay, so here we have our brick. So here we're going to have a look at how we can prepare a part to make it configurable, so we can make it adaptable and make it grow to suit whatever it is we're looking to do. Okay, and we're just going to stick with this basic format and see what we can do. Now, one of these things could be to add in some equations, possibly, to help drive what's going on here. Now, part of that, I think, needs to be looking at maybe how we can control the width and the length, and maybe its height. Okay, so for that we'll use some, like I say, some equations. So we go to Tools, Equations, in here, and so we could start off by just adding in some global variables. Okay, so what do I want to have in here? So we're going to have a couple of different sizes. I'm not going to be very original. I'm just going to put size 1, okay, and that is going to be 8, okay, because that's the characteristic of our sort of width sizes, okay, or length sizes, okay, but it could be either. And then I'm going to make one that is going to be another one called height, okay, and I'm going to set that to 3.2 because that's going to be a characteristic of the height of our bricks. Okay, but then I'm going to have a value called L. Okay, and for this one, I'm going to set that as 2, and we're going to have a W. The next one will be W. Try not to type it into the comments in there. So W, and that is going to be width. No, it's not going to be width. It's going to be 1. Okay, I just want it to be a number. And then for H, I'm also going to mark that as 1. Okay, so in here I could say 1 equals plate, comma 3 equals brick. Just as a general reminder. Maybe width, it's going to be 1, 2, 4, or possibly 6 only. Just as a comment there, it's not as an absolute restriction. But I'm going to have those values in here. Okay, so I've introduced those. All right. And so, yeah, we can go and make use of this in our system. So let's just hit OK at that. We've stored those values. We can always call on them here. Okay, so L by 2, W1, H, and so on. So how do we introduce those? Well, if we go into our sketch, any dimension, so if we just edit this, any dimension can have an equation. So instead of just typing in a number, we just say that is going to equal, okay, and this time I know it's going to be my size value times, and this time I'm going to be multiplying it by W. Okay. And when we hit OK, the number doesn't change. Why should it? But it's now got the little sigma beside it. So it's now controlled by these values down here. Similarly, up here then, I can say that equals my size times the length. And we can hit OK on there. All right, so we have that in place. Okay, and then we can look at anything else that uses those values to help position things. Okay, this size here and the height and so on. So, well, this extrude, clearly here we have that in there. So this, again, we want that to equal the height times, and I'm going to go and grab that H value. Okay, so again, we are controlling that height in there. Okay, so we've now got this first item fully controlled. We can now go to the second item. Okay, so again, I'll just go and edit the sketch. Okay, And for this, the position of this doesn't really matter. You know, it doesn't relate to the number of studs, but I can just say that equals the size divided by 2. Okay, so we do that. Let's go and quickly add it into here as well. So that equals, again, you can just use the little drop down as I'm doing here, or you could start typing in the values and it will prompt you to recognize those as well. That value can just stay as is. In there, the height of the studs isn't going to change. This was already being driven by something else. This is also quite tightly controlled. The other values can stay as they are. Okay, but the big question is, will my equations work? Okay, that's the trick. So, just before we get started, just do a quick save. So let's have a look then. So if I was to change the length to a different value, okay, so we need to just, we are going to go in to change those. So we just go manage equations. So 2, let's make it 4. Okay, we just hit 4 in there, and oh look. Now, this does then highlight something, which can be a bit of a gotcha, particularly if you're doing configured parts, because the fillets have dropped off those 2 other studs, and we have an issue down here as well. So I think we need to look at, this is our boss. Now, quite often we do fillets right at the end, but here I think I want to take my model back to this stage, and I am going to fillet my boss now. Okay, we'll add that in. And then when I do my linear pattern, I'm going to have to modify that as well. Make sure we include those fillets. All right, add them in. Okay, then we can shell it. That's absolutely fine. Then we have our boss extrude and our final fillets. Okay, it may, well, it's not complaining about these faces, but just to tidy things up, I will remove those faces from the list. Okay, so we now have this part, but we have this issue down here where our little stud has not been patterned. Oh, look, it does have these dimensions in there as well. So maybe we need to just think about how we adjust those. Okay, so let's just go through that process. So here we can go and edit the sketch. Let's just say that is then just going to equal the size. Okay, so that's fine. Here, it's always going to be constant. This is never going to change. So it could be argued that I don't need to actually go and modify that, but perhaps I will just for the sake of it. That divided by 2, we can hit OK. So right, we have that driven, but we do need to pattern this as well. So it's just going to be the similar sort of pattern as we had before. Okay, so here, just a linear pattern following that edge. The object is this one here, and up to reference, we're just going to click that back face there and hit OK, and we have 3 studs. Okay, so is that now working? Well, let's just quickly check with the equations here. So I'm going to just go and change that length to, let's just change it to 6. Okay, they quite often go up in groups of 2. So all of my studs still have their nice fillets on them, and we still have all the pieces underneath as well. Okay, but what if we wanted it to be taller? Well, here we could change our H value. Okay, and so what we could do is change that from 1 to 3 and hit OK. And now we have a brick that is of those, 1 stud by 6 and the full height. Okay, because 3 plates is the same as 1 brick in this system. All right, so there we have it. Now, it almost seems like I'm done here, but we haven't really added configurations yet. We've just been testing out the different global properties there. Okay, and the other thing I haven't done is change the width, and unfortunately I think we're going to run into a little issue there. So let's just quickly go and do that just to have a look. So manage equations, let's change the width. Okay, so make the width 2. Okay, and we're not totally out of the woods yet, so we clearly need to think about how we're going to do that. But I think I'm going to save that for the next video because I don't want this one to last too long. Okay, so there we have it. Let's just quickly check that, change that back to a standard single width. So it looks nice. And there you have it. That's how you can create one of these bricks, and just with a change of a couple of simple numbers down there, you can get it to be any length you like. So in the next video, we'll have a look at how we can make it wider. And as ever, thank you for watching.